Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and as we promised, today we're going to give you the answer. We're going to reveal what our Monday mystery object was. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at the video. Hopefully you've had a bit of a think about it overnight, and we've had quite a few comments, mainly in messages, and sadly no one has got the correct answer. So I do believe we have stumped you again in our Monday mystery. So we're doing quite well. Maybe next week we'll have a bit of an easier one for you. So the object in question was made out of wood, and we showed you two of them. So we have that one there and that one there, and they are made of very, very thin wood, and the detailing on them basically is they're rectangular, and then there are these two little cutouts on that side and two little cutouts on that side as well. So it's not as if they're just random bits of wood. They're actually made specifically for a purpose. Now, most people actually thought it could be for weaving. For example, there's something called tablet weaving, and people thought, was it to put thread around, for example? Unfortunately, not the right answer. We even had an idea that it had something to do with fishing, because if you look at it, actually, it could be something that you could wrap some line round, a bit like a crabbing device, really. But it's not. Unfortunately, they are all incorrect answers. So what are they? Well, in modern day, in our day today, we often refer to them as Vindolanda tablets. So Vindolanda tablets. Now, if you have a look through our playlist, and in particular you go to our playlist on Hadrian's Wall, you will find in there a video about Roman forts, and we actually filmed that on a hill overlooking Vindolanda Fort. And Vindolanda Fort is actually quite an amazing fort that is not owned by National Trust, not owned by English Heritage. It's actually owned by the Vindolanda Trust. Now, the Vindolanda Trust was set up many, many years ago to excavate what is technically a very, very large legionary fort and vicus. And the interesting thing is that site is still being dug every single year during the archaeological season. So every year teams of archaeologists work on that site. Now, in the 1970s, one archaeologist in particular called Robin Byerley was sat on the side of the dig site whilst resting, as archaeologists do when they have a tea break, for example, and he actually noticed that a large amount of timber was being excavated from the site. Now, when we say timber, we don't mean large stakes or beams or anything like that. Small slithers of wood was actually being found. Now, it's an interesting story, and I would advise you to go and look it up at a later date. Eventually, people started to guess what it was doing there, and a lot of people did actually think, well, the wood is coming from maybe a carpenter's workshop, so it was probably chippings or shavings that were coming off timber that was being used for manufacturing buildings, because even though the Romans did use stone and did use things like brick, they also used a lot of timber as well. They also used vast amounts of timber. And people just thought it was the rubbish that was being thrown on the floor from a carpenter. The truth is that archaeologist, Robin, actually sat there and he found one bit of wood, and he opened it because he realised that it was actually two pieces together. I don't know if you can see that. They are very, very thin. He actually noticed there were actually two pieces together. And what he actually did is peeled the two apart, and he noticed in the daylight that there were markings on the wood, and it wasn't markings as in carvings or anything like that. He noticed it was actually ink, and he realised that all these wood chips, these little tiny bits of timber, these tiny slithers of wood that was being found and excavated, and in a way just put to one side, were in fact individual letters. So if you were thinking, what are these little bits of wood? they're actually Vindolanda tablets. That's what we call them in the modern day, Vindolanda tablets. Now, they are predominantly found in Britain, but there are some that have been found further afield, but Britain seems to be the main place for them. Now, we're not 100% sure why. Was it because papyrus paper was used for writing on for a long period of time, especially in the Mediterranean, for example, and maybe we didn't have that much paper in this country of the same style. So they chose wood, and these are often made out of very thinly split older wood. Sometimes they're made of things like birch, and even oak wood has also been found, and it's quite an amazing thing to actually split the wood down so finely to make what are basically writing bits of wood. Really, it's the equivalent, as I always say, as a postcard. And if you look at the size of them, they are that size. They're the size of a postcard. Now, 752 of them have actually been transcribed over the years. This just goes to show how many have been found. Very rarely do you find them as good as that. Usually you only just find in fragments of them, but over 700 have actually been transcribed, and they are really, really interesting things. Now, some of them are full of official information. So we know that they were used for communications within, for example, the Roman Empire, maybe even in the Roman forts, in the Roman garrisons on Hadrian's Wall. We also know they were used by women and also traders as well. Some of these contain shopping lists. Some of them are actually letters from Romans to go home, basically. So you often have comments on them or writing on them describing send socks or send underpants. Actually, the first reference to underpants being worn in Britain and generally by the Roman Empire come from the Vindolanda tablets, interestingly. And you also get things like birthday invitations. We have quite a few from, for example, the women folk of garrison commanders basically saying, it's my birthday, come to my birthday party. So they're absolutely fantastic. But as I say, I think they're a bit like postcards from the Roman Empire. Now, these are what they start life as, so plain slithers of wood, and obviously people wrote on them, and I've got one here that I've actually put some text on, and this is obviously some Latin text. It's actually in a way a form of shorthand for Roman lettering, really. So it's not like the big bold capital letters that you see on tombstones, for example. It's more of a loose handwriting, something that you would scribe down very, very quickly to send. For example, an invitation to a party, or a list of things to buy when you're next in the Vicus, for example. So they're absolutely fantastic things. Now, they don't appear like that. They wouldn't have appeared in your post boxes such like that. They definitely wouldn't have been blank like these. What they would have done is they would have turned up very much like this. Now, this is just a mock-up of one. So you could be on Hadrian's Wall and you could have a messenger turn up with something like that. And as I said, these are made of wood. So you'd have something like that turn up. Now, what you will find is usually the name of the person at the top, and then perhaps where it's going. For example, it could just say Rome, or it could just say, for example, the fort of Calernum on there. So when it turns up, you would know who it's for and where it's meant to be. So hopefully it's turned up at the right place. And some of them we know actually had a seal on. Now, some were sealed with wax like this one over the string. Other ones actually had a metal seal holder, which are quite spectacular things, and I may show you one of those in a future video, or I may use that specific device as a Monday mystery in its own right. But this one's just got a blob of wax on it, and then basically to open it you will pull the string, break the wax seal on it, and you would open it. So basically the writing, when you want to write on a Vindolanda tablet, goes on the inside, and you close it together so you can't actually see the writing. So you would break the seal, break open the string, and then you can read the message inside. They're absolutely fantastic things. Now, if you do go to the museum at Vindolanda, you will see some examples there. However, the bulk of the Vindolanda tablets are actually safely looked after at the British Museum. So hopefully when lockdown finally finishes, if you do go to the British Museum, make sure you go to the Roman section and you will find those Vindolanda tablets, and they are absolutely fantastic. There is also a dedicated website to the Vindolanda tablets that you can look up, and you'll be able to see the transcribed versions alongside the photographs of the official Vindolanda tablets. Now, the way I've connected mine together and the way I've wrote on mine is just one method, because we know in some cases the wood was actually scored and folded as well, very much like you would do with a letter later in history. So very simply, our Monday mystery today, or on Monday, was actually these slithers of wood are the equivalent of Roman postcards. These are the letters that went across the empire from places, for example, like Hadrian's Wall. So they're soldiers' letters. Amazing things, really. Anyway, hope you enjoyed our Monday mystery. I promise that the next one will be a little bit easier to allow more people to take part. But on that note, stay in, stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.